It's recap time. 3, 2. Hey, quick interruption. Same chip from the drawer of the previous episode. I'm just here to tell you that if you've already listened to the previous episode, you can skip directly to the recap part. Otherwise, I'll leave you with the intro. 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Shower Podcast, the podcast where I'm in my shower and you do you. I'm your host, Chip, and this is an unusual intro to an already unusual intro that usually happens during the recap episodes. I have experienced a technical difficulty, let's say so. I am currently away for a vacation and I brought my laptop with me to edit, but unfortunately the blueprint of the recap episodes is not present on my laptop. I have no way of recovering it, so yeah, something new needs to be created. And for your curiosity, it is being created in the closet of the house where I'm staying just to improve as much as possible the audio quality. The recap episodes are still what you know. And if you don't know, if this is the first time you ended up on this channel, they are an interesting and fast way to give you the main points and ideas of old episodes and maybe make you interested enough to go back and watch the original episodes. And if you're a usual listener of the Shower Podcast, you already know the drill. And maybe also for you, it's a way to listen again to old ideas and make something new out of them. What else to say? If you ended up making it so far already, remember the liking and subscribing are really, really welcome. And as usual, stay consistent, stay resilient. This will be the Shower Podcast, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on kind of a fascinating exploration. It's all thanks to some really insightful reflections from Chip, the host, and the creative mind behind the Shower Podcast. He shared a few thoughts recently that just really hit home. And, well, our mission today is to pull out the core wisdom from 3 of his recent episodes. We'll be digging into some very relatable stuff, embracing the unperfect moments, tackling challenges head on, and maybe most importantly, choosing wisely where we focus our energy, our obsessions. And hey, if any of this sparks something in you, we really encourage you to check out Chip's original episodes, get the full picture. Those are How to Know If Your Obsession is Worth It. That's episode 251. Silksong Taught Me This About Deliberate Challenges, episode 250. And Silksong Taught Me This About Perfect Moments, which is 249.
Yeah, it's really quite compelling how Chip does that. He weaves these deeply personal stories, often from gaming, into these universal truths about how we approach life, our goals. For anyone, trying to gain knowledge quickly, distilling ideas from narratives like his is really effective. They stick with you. He's just a great guide for thinking about our own habits, I think.
Totally agree. Okay, so let's jump right into the first deep dive. This one's inspired by episode 249. Silksong Taught Me This About Perfect Moments. Chip starts by setting the scene. The release of Hollow Knight, Silksong, a game he'd been waiting years for, like so many others. And his main point here is kind of counterintuitive. Chasing that perfect moment can actually, steal your joy. He shared this story, and it's so relatable. When Silksong finally came out, he actually had a few minutes free on release day. But did he play? Nope. He held off. He wanted to save it, set aside the right time and space over the weekend for this big special moment. But here's the kicker, and I bet a lot of us have felt this. By the time the weekend actually arrived, he said he almost felt tired of waiting.
Exactly. That initial excitement, that buzz, it had started to fade a bit because he was chasing this imagined perfect scenario that didn't even exist. And that just resonates so much with how we often delay things, doesn't it? Think about it. How often do we put off starting something, a project, a tough conversation, even a fun trip, waiting for the conditions to be just right?
Oh, all the time. When I have more time, when things calm down, when I feel ready.
Right. But that perfect alignment, it hardly ever happens. We're always waiting.
It's like we're scared of messing up the experience if everything isn't perfect. Why do we do that? What's behind that impulse?
Well, a lot of it likely stems from wanting control, and having this idealized picture of how things should go. We think perfect conditions mean a perfect outcome, so waiting feels like the smart move. But Chip's big insight here is that the best moments aren't perfect, they're just lived. They happen when you just dive in without all the overthinking and stage managing.
Just being present, basically.
Exactly. Presence over polish. Imperfection often makes moments feel more real, more yours. Chip even noted our best memories. They're often messy, unplanned, but they felt right because we were just in them fully.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
We build things up so much in our heads, the reality can't possibly match the fantasy. And Chip gave a great example of actually living this principle. It was really inspiring. He mentioned he started his entire podcast, this whole journey, totally impulsively, on a plane, just hours before drafting the first episode.
Wow, really? On a plane?
Yeah. Didn't wait for a fancy studio or a perfect plan. Just went with it. And look what happened. Almost a year of daily podcasts came out of that spontaneous start. It really shows the power of just beginning.
It absolutely does. Momentum comes from starting, not perfect prep. We can get so bogged down in planning that we never actually, do the thing. Often the biggest hurdle isn't the task itself, it's just waiting for that mythical right time.
So the takeaway here is pretty clear, right? If you've been putting something off, big or small, creative thing, conversation, even just playing that game you bought, Chip's challenge, and ours too, is maybe pick one thing you've delayed for the perfect time and just do it today, even imperfectly, even for 5 minutes. Because like he said, later might never come, but right now is always here. Powerful stuff. Okay, so building on that, accepting the imperfect moment, Chip then takes us towards embracing the challenges within those moments. This is from episode 250. Silksong taught me this about deliberate challenges. Here, the focus shifts. Difficulty isn't the enemy. Actually, it's often the reason progress feels so good, so meaningful. And naturally, he goes back to Silksong. He talks about hitting this really tough zone in the game. Stronger enemies, confusing map, failing over and over, getting sent right back to the start. Frustrating, right? But then he had this click moment. He realized every failure wasn't wasted time. He was actually learning patterns, trying strategies, getting just a tiny bit better each run.
Ah, the gradual improvement loop.
Exactly. And that feeling of growth, however slow, became kind of addictive. The struggle itself turned into the reason he kept pushing forward.
And that translates so well beyond games, doesn't it? It's a fundamental truth. Real satisfaction often comes from overcoming difficulty. If you connect this to life, think about learning an instrument or sticking to a fitness plan or building a new habit. The things that feel impossible at first, they become meaningful because they're hard. The insight is simple but deep. Without resistance, there's no strength. Without struggle, there's no satisfaction.
It's funny, we spend so much time trying to make things easier, optimize everything for convenience, but maybe we're accidentally removing the very thing that gives us that sense of accomplishment we're looking for. How do these challenges change us?
Well, they act like a mirror, really. They show you what you're capable of, but also, crucially, where you need to grow. By facing them, you turn mundane actions into real milestones. Think about it like a tough boss fight in a game that victory feels unforgettable because it was hard won. The effort gives the achievement its value. And through that process, you build resilience. You find strengths you didn't know you had. You cultivate that growth mindset. It changes "I can't" into "Okay, how can I?"
Right. So Chip's challenge here feels really practical, even kind of exciting. Don't avoid difficulty. Find one challenge this week that pushes you a little past comfort. Doesn't have to be huge, right? Could be that workout, that tricky project, or, finally beating that game boss.
Exactly. And the point isn't just ticking the box, it's embracing the process, the struggle, the learning. Because on the other side of that frustration, that's where the real growth happens. That's the beauty of deliberate challenges. They shape you, one attempt, one small step at a time. Those struggles become your story.
Which leads us really nicely into the final deep dive. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. We've gone from imperfect moments to embracing difficulty, and now we land on diving in completely when something truly clicks. This is from episode 251, How to Know If Your Obsession is Worth It. Chip talks about hyper-fixation, but not as a negative thing. He sees it as something that, when channeled right, makes life feel alive.
Okay.
And his current obsession, surprise, surprise, still Hollow Knight, Silksong. He describes being totally all in, playing it, thinking about it constantly, really looking forward to any chance to engage with it. But the key thing is he consciously decided not to feel guilty about it. He wants to remember this period, this phase where he just let himself dive deep. It's more than just liking it, it's living with it in your head.
Yeah, and what's great is the nuance he brings. Because hyperfixation can sound a bit intense, maybe even negative. But the way he frames it is when something just grabs you so hard that everything else kind of fades into the background for a bit. It's more than just flow state where you're absorbed. This is almost like obsessive, but in a potentially positive way. It's on your mind constantly. You wake up thinking about it.
So it's not just deep focus, it's like this sustained pull. What's going on in the brain there? Why does it feel so potent?
Well, neurologically speaking, researchers see it as this intense, prolonged focus driven by interest. Studies show pretty much anyone can experience this when an activity gives enough emotional reward. And neuroscientists point straight to dopamine. That's the neurotransmitter for motivation, reward, pleasure. It spikes massively during these periods, which explains why hours can fly by and you don't feel tired. Your brain's basically handing you free focus because it's getting rewarded. It's a powerful loop.
Ah, the dopamine hit. Okay, that makes sense. But, as Chip points out, there's a big but here, isn't there? That dopamine rush can trick you. Just because your brain feels good doing something doesn't mean that thing is actually worth obsessing over.
Yeah.
And that's where people get tangled up in hyper-fixations that don't actually help them, right?
Yeah.
Like endless scrolling or binge-watching things they don't even enjoy that much.
Exactly. The reward system gets hijacked. And research on compulsive behaviors shows that if these loops aren't checked, they can crowd out important stuff and leave you feeling empty afterwards. So the real value, Chip argues, comes from being selective, really intentional. You let that intense focus happen, but only when the thing genuinely deserves it. If you have a new obsession every week, bouncing from one shiny thing to the next, then, like he says, none of them really mean much.
So it's about conscious choice, not just following the dopamine trail wherever it leads. Chip picked Silksong deliberately for this level of focus because, to him, not every game gets that spot. He knows when this phase ends, he won't just remember the game, but the experience, the way I let myself go all in for it, it becomes a chapter.
And that really brings up a critical question for all of us, doesn't it? The power isn't just that hyperfixation happens, it's how you choose to wield it. If your intense focus only ever lands on random trends or the next fleeting distraction, you might just find yourself empty when it's over. That's what Chip calls burnout, disguised as passion. True engagement needs that conscious choice.
That's such a crucial distinction. Makes you really think about where your time and mental energy are going.
It really does. So Chip's challenge to you, the listener, is basically this. What deserves that level of focus in your life? What is truly worth being obsessed about? Because hyperfixation, when you apply it thoughtfully to the right things, it isn't just about intensity. It's about making memories deeply. It's how certain periods of your life become truly unforgettable and shape who you are.
Wow. What a journey through Chip's thinking. We've gone from letting go of perfect moments to live more now, to seeing how deliberate challenges build strength and satisfaction. And finally, how choosing our obsessions wisely can create these really rich, memorable life chapters. It all seems to point towards finding more purpose and joy through more deliberate, conscious living.
Absolutely. If you connect it all up, these kinds of deep dives like Chip's Originals, they nudge us to live more intentionally. They help make our experiences more resonant, more meaningful. It shows that just by shifting how we think about waiting, about difficulty, about focus, we actually have a lot of power to shape our lives. So maybe a final thought for you to chew on. How might intentionally choosing to embrace one unperfect moment or one deliberate challenge or one worthy obsession this week, how might that change the story you tell about your life, say, a year from now?
That is a really powerful question to end on. Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and for joining us on this deep dive. And as usual, stay consistent, stay resilient. See you tomorrow.